All right. Hey everybody, we back. Y'all know it's Wednesday, so we back again with the Wednesday night talk. Y'all know I'm Demasha K, Zip Mouth Motivation, and
I am Dr. Sierra Davis with Holistic Soul Care. Glad to be here another week.
definitely. So again, a disclaimer every week. So it's just in case new people are on. At this time, we're just gonna make sure like the energy is clear. We're gonna pray. Dr. Sierra is gonna play the sound bowls, and just make sure that we're not hindered and you're not hindered from what it is you need to learn or what it is you want to learn, and just and that we're not hindered from anything else. Um, so here we go. Lord, I pray that everyone that is on this live today, I pray that they would, that you would provide them with knowledge to find peace, hope, and the ability to heal. Give them guidance as to what areas in their life that needs to heal. Let them shift through or sift through everything that is not right so they're not held down or held back from the journey due to not letting go of matters they have been released from. Ashe. Uh-oh.
Amen. Ashe.
So tonight, about healing from the inside out. Healing from the inside out.
Yes, healing from the
And
inside out. I'm going to share really quickly.
yes, ma'am, go ahead and share.
And if you're on, please share. Please share.
Definitely. If you're watching right now, please share the live. Um,
I'm going to share to.
And give everybody a second to go ahead and share.
All right.
I can't never
That's
get
a
right.
beautiful prayer. I'm enjoying your prayers.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Those are God's prayers. Actually, like I pray before I do the prayer. Well, I pray before and then I ask God what the prayer should be for the people. And so then like I pray it through the week and then I write it down so then I pray it on Wednesday too. So
Awesome. I love that.
definitely. So tonight we're talking about healing. This might be like a little heavy topic, which I know we only got an hour, so we just gonna kind of like skim the surface a little bit. Um, but I guess the first question is, Dr. Sierra, what does healing mean to you?
So, healing to me means getting back to a state of wholeness, to a
Mhm.
state of peace. It means to a state of feeling well. I think of wellness. I think of
Mhm.
healthiness. Um, to be, I think of, and we talked about this in weeks before. I think of freedom. With healing. Um, I think of shackles. Sometimes when you're sick and you need to be healed. Sometimes overall you need to be free. Um,
Right,
so that's what I think of: healthy, freedom, um, you know, wellness.
right.
That's what I think of.
Okay, okay. So for me, healing is, like you said, becoming sound or healthy. Um, for me, healing definitely is freedom, it's peace, it's excitement, And so, like, when I say excitement, I mean like when you heal from a situation, or even when you have a wound and you heal from it, it's like I'm glad that's over with.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. Yes,
It's like exciting, So, but a
I
lot of
love that.
times we don't know how to accept healing. You know what I'm saying? We
Mm.
don't know how to accept healing, and we don't know the things that we need to be healed from. So, how are some ways that you find out, like, I need to heal from this situation? Like, how do you make that decision about stuff?
Oh, I think that's good. I think you have to take inventory. You have to look at yourself and think of like what's going on and what's bothering me. Like you said, with the sore, something has to happen for you to feel like something needs to improve, something needs to be healed. So
Right.
there has to be a process where you process what's bothering me, what's going on that is causing me to need a change. Even if you don't, because I find sometimes the words of healing or set free doesn't come easily, but people know something is not right. You might not
Right.
know what it is, but you know something needs to change. And
Right.
so it starts for me with taking the time to think what is wrong. Even if you don't have all the big terminology yet,
Right.
but just taking the time to assess the situation. Um, and that for me includes, mind, body, and soul. That holistic part is, is
Right.
it something physically that's bothering me? Is it something emotionally that's bothering me? Is it something spiritually that's bothering me? Is it a combination of all of it that's bothering me? So it's
Right.
that for me, it's that assessment initially that has to happen, at least for me, and in working with people, is just having a conversation um, with self or others about what's upsetting, what's
Right.
problematic. Yeah.
Right, right. I can understand that. That's kind of the same for me. I definitely feel like the process starts in my mind, and I have to question myself like, okay, well, what's going on? What is the problem? Is there something like, is there something wrong with your body? Is there something wrong with your spirit? Is there something wrong with your mind? Like, what's the situation? So, like, I have to assess and have a long conversation with myself because I think part of it is being honest and saying, like, this hurt me or this frustrated me or this caused me trauma or whatever. So I definitely assess and then start asking myself like a lot of questions, like, and I'm one of those people, I have to write things down. So when I write it
Hmm.
down, it kind of like gets it out for me. It takes it to another space for me.
Yeah, and I think along with that, it is when people are thinking about that process of what's bothering me, what's going on, mind, body, and soul, like I was saying, oftentimes, what bothers us isn't something that's necessarily only going on within our mind, body, and soul, like something that, maybe we've done or something's going on with us. Oftentimes, it's taking everything else into consideration. And most of the time, it's a combination of both. It's something with us and it's something external. So it's also taken into consideration, people, places, and things,
Right,
the who, what, when, where's, and why's, so
right,
it starts with self. And also, what is it? Sometimes it's not necessarily yourself that's bothersome, but is there someone else that's bothersome? Is it an event that's bothersome? Um,
right,
and then you can go further on into when did it bother you and why does it bother you and things like that. But it's not always us that's the problem
right.
necessarily. It's often maybe people have done things to hurt us, so it can extend outward, and then when they're both, that's even more overwhelming. So
Right, right. So we both come to that synapses kind of like that. The process of it starts like in the mind, and then like that body feeling. Because a lot of times people will say like my head hurts, my back hurts, and
hmm,
like they'll say like a lot of things are wrong with them. You know what I'm saying? And I'll say like, well, what's on your mind? What happened? Well, I don't know. My body just hurts. I mean, I know some people hold stress or pain in their back or in their legs or whatever. So I think a lot of it too is like
yes,
being in tune with your body. You know what I'm saying? In order for you to
yes,
heal, you have to know like this is what I'm feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm feeling like my finger hurting, whatever it is. Um,
yes,
I know for me, if I'm like frustrated or hurt about something, I feel it in my shoulders.
hmm,
So that's like one major thing why I tell people you have to learn what it is. It starts in your mind, start thinking what happened and when did this start hurting? When did this start bothering you?
hmm. And that's great. And that's indications of triggers, when we're working with people and talking to ourselves and we can't quite figure out when something started and when it began or what led to it, you know,
Right.
um, that's a way to understand what those triggers are or what precipitated. That's a trigger. Um,
Mm,
what a trigger is anything that precipitates the outcome of. whatever happened. So something
Right.
triggers you, meaning something happened and it caused a chain reaction of other things, and those things happened because that trigger or that event or incident happened, and it led to that. So that's what I mean by trigger. And so that's a good way to think about what triggered you. And you made me think of, and I think I'm not uh I'm right when I say that oftentimes people, and I say I think because I haven't delved into a lot of the somatization stuff in a while, but oftentimes people will might not have a physical ailment, but the emotional toll um,
Right.
manifests itself in the body, and we call that somatization.
Mhm.
Somatization, and
Right.
that's when there's so much emotional buildup that it has to go somewhere. And so it often travels to the body. And so oftentimes many people will go to their primary doctor and say, I have all these issues, my, whatever. It could be any types of physical issues. And they can be often frustrated when the doctor says, well, there's nothing showing up on your lab work.
Right.
And a great primary care doctor will hopefully lead you back to someone, a mental health professional, to see if there's any underlying thing going on. And I've seen it so many times where
Right.
people have told me that, and there is absolutely no evidence of any physical problems, but
Right.
the mind is so overwhelmed that it can cause things. So yeah, I think maybe when we talk about ways to help, we'll get into the importance of getting that trauma out of the body, because it can and will eventually um, cause problems.
Right, right. I've heard a lot of times people say like there's nothing wrong with me. Like I go to the doctor and they say there's nothing wrong with me, but I can't get rid of this cold because sometimes when you need to heal in the inside, it comes out as a cold because like your body is affected. It's
Hmm.
something that's constantly on your mind or something that's kind of like bogging you down or frustrating you. It's taking a toll on your body. You know what I'm saying? It's causing you stress, it's causing you trauma, it's causing an exchange
Hmm.
of some kind of way. So, with that being said, what are some ways other than the body that you need to heal? Like, what are some other? I mean, there's the mind, there's the body. We talked about the spirit. So, what in the spirit happens where like, I need to let this go?
Um, I think the first part, I think your question was, why do people need to heal? And then how do
Hmm.
you know? I think, gosh, I mean, you just normal things like loss, any type
Right,
of loss, a loved one, a pet, a job, any
right,
type of loss really will signal a need to heal, because your life was a certain way prior, and then now something has been taken away. And so
right.
there's going to be some healing that's going to be needed to adjust to the new normal for that. Same with
Mm,
divorce. You had a life prior. I mean, I don't mean you, I mean whoever, was married and divorced, there was a life prior. There was
right,
friends connected to it and all these sorts of memories, and it's not typically all bad. There's some great things that happen, but
right,
with divorce, there's a need to heal, even if it was an amicable one, because life's different, and processing all
right,
those things. Job loss, like I said, all types of abuse, emotional, physical, sexual,
right,
all of that will require healing.
right,
Any type
right,
of illness, things like that, of just sickness, whether that's physical healing or the emotional toll that can come, in a financial toll that can come
right,
from being sick, and everything else that goes along with illness and things like that. So, those are some of the things that just come to mind of why people would need to heal. And then
right,
your second part is, how do you know? I think it goes back to the beginning. Something feels off, whether that's your emotions. There can be emotions going up and down. Not a balance. And
right,
for different people, that's different. So, what somebody's baseline, and the baseline is basically how you are the majority of the time. And so
right.
talking to people, I want to know what that baseline is, and then the behavior that happens, so that I know what happened in between. And so that's
Right.
different for some people. Some people's baseline is on more calm. Some people have a hectic life, and that's their norm. So more hectic isn't going to necessarily cause issues. It's knowing the
Right.
difference between baseline and where they are. And
And
so
where they are.
yeah, and checking in, like what's different, what's different from the baseline, that's causing issues, what's uncomfortable, are you crying
Right.
all night long, are you I was talking to someone about addictions and things like that, gambling addiction specifically, and is that something that's not your norm, and you finding,
Right.
looking at patterns, are there patterns in your life that doesn't feel good, or maybe it's not always something different from your baseline. Maybe your baseline is problematic and you finally realizing I'm done with it. So it can go both ways.
Right. Right. So that's what I was that's where I was going next. Because sometimes people can get comfortable in the process of not healing. Like they can get comfortable in that process of suppressing what they feel and suppressing, like what really hurt them, just to kind of like, like whatever. Like I'm just, it doesn't matter, what I'm saying? Or this is my life. I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, this is my life. My life is intended for people. People always hurt me. But what, like, what are you doing to get past that hurt? Because unless you get past that hurt, then you can't go to the next phase of your life where you learn to say no, where you don't allow people to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? At least not intentionally, or you don't put yourself in those spaces where you can be hurt. Not that, like everybody's not negated from hurt, but there are some things, places, people, situations that you can avoid to stop the trauma, hurt, pain, frustration in your life. So, do you think people get comfortable in that space of suppression?
I think so. And myself, I've been there too. It's like, you deal with the same thing over and over again, or one of the things that I wrote down in terms of like takeaways at the end of this is letting people know that healing isn't linear. Like healing isn't, when I say that, I mean, it doesn't mean like you go through all these steps from 1 to 10, from the beginning to, and then the end, and then you're done.
Right,
It can go back and forth. So you might go from A to D, things are going, and then you might go a little bit faster from D to G. Make sure I got
right,
my words right. And then you
right,
might go backwards. And
right.
so I think even for me, sometimes I'm like, I'll make progress and then I'll feel like, then I'll go backwards. And
Mm-hmm.
I say that so people know, like, that's a natural part of healing. Is it's not always linear, and sometimes you can make progress, and then sometimes you can feel like I'm tired, because exhaustion is a part of healing.
Right,
When we think about what's involved, exhaustion is a part of healing. It's exhausting to go
right,
through and change these things. And like I like your example of the wound. It doesn't, a wound that needs to be healed, it doesn't always heal right away or with one type of treatment. Sometimes
right.
it's long drawn out, and you might have to try different things and change bandages. That's part of it too. So I definitely think that that people halt their healing or they stall, for a variety of reasons.
Right. I know right now, like healing is a big topic. It's almost like big as self-love.
Yeah,
Like breaking down the traumas. And I think that people are misconstruing like the process is a process. And you might heal from one thing, but another thing might come up again. You know what I'm saying?
it's
So when you
true.
get into that space, you have to know, like you said, you might go real fast, like to G, but then you have to go all the way back to A with a different situation because things are
Yes.
going to constantly pop up in this journey. Like things that you didn't even realize. And I think that people forget when they're teaching about healing to tell people like you have to have the tough conversation with yourself and you have to
Mhm.
be accountable if you did something in that situation or if you could have changed something in that situation.
Mhm.
um I know one thing I always tell people is like you get the warning signs. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we get these warning signs or we get this like little intuition or this like I don't know, no, you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? But we still move forward with that. So those are the conversations like you have to have with yourself and then learn from them. But sometimes you go back into the same cycles again. And I don't want to say it's okay, like it's okay, but it happens. It's life.
It
You know
happens.
what I'm saying? We just have to know how to get stronger and get better and not be comfortable in that state, because healing
Yes.
is a process, a big process of your journey forward.
Yes, and I have had some notes when we were in the process of preparing for it, and I think this is a great opportunity to share that with the people, um, as it relates to stalling growth and this whole process of welcoming healing and embracing it, and I wrote down questions to ask the self, and I think
Right,
it can help as we thinking about you know this whole process that we're undertaking, and that is, are you ready to heal? So again, even if you ask
right,
yourself these questions, and even if you feel like you're ready, it doesn't mean that what we just talked about in terms of going backwards or feeling like you're stalling with your healing, it doesn't mean that don't what will not happen. But going back to when I was saying in the beginning, hey, we have some people signing on. Back to what I was saying in the beginning about um, processing how to know that you need healing and what to do. I was talking about processing kind of what's going on with you, what bothers
right,
you, and things like that. So ask yourself, are you ready to heal? Do you want that scab, in Damasha's example, to continue to fester? Or are you tired of it? Or you going to, even if the first solution doesn't work? So are you ready? Um, this is a question that I use in counseling a lot, and coaching, as a way to help people think about what they want different, because that
right,
is a foundational question. Is and with healing is, what do you want different? And this is,
right,
if you were to wake up tomorrow, and a miracle happened, how will you know that you have been healed? So this is
right,
another way to get at goal setting, is how will you know something's different? Well, the scab, won't be so big, it'll be closed a little bit. Okay, great. Or I know I'll be able to sleep through the night instead of crying through the night. Or I know I'll at least
right.
sleep 4 hours. That's progress. So that's something as well. Um, how do you want your life to look after you've been healed? So this is kind
Mm,
of at it. So you know what's going on now, but how do you envision life once this is over? Well, I want to be more free. I want to feel like I can just, be more creative. Whatever it is, how do you want your life to look? And like we've already talked in some other sessions, this is the beginning of manifestation. This is the beginning of understanding. Manifestation is knowing what you want and then taking steps. And we've covered
right,
this already, but taking steps to make that happen. And so that's one of those things. What do you want? And what can you do to make your healing journey gentle for yourself? Um,
right,
and I got I got doing research from sacredwellmind.com. So I wanted to credit that, for those questions as well, is what can you do to make your healing journey gentle for yourself? Because we
right,
know it can be rough. So how can you plan some self-care or some things so that during this bumpy road, you safeguard some things to protect yourself, um,
right,
as you go forward. So I just wanted to throw those in there, as a kind of precursor as people are thinking about healing, and to question for themselves and journal however they want to do it. This
right.
whole called healing.
That's definitely like on the same lines as how, like, when I'm coaching someone, like I ask them, do you really want, because sometimes people want to hold on to it. You know what I'm saying? They become
Mhm.
comfortable with that pain, or they become comfortable with that anger or that frustration, and they don't want to let it go. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really ask yourself, like you said, do you want to let this go? Is this something, like, are you done with this? Sometimes it's no, I'm not done with it. I want to be mad. And guess what? That's okay. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't take your healing process at the same pace as everybody else. You have to take it at your own pace, because it won't stick. That thing's going to come right back up, and it's going to hit you right back in the face. And you're going to be saying, you know what? Coach Demasha did not help me. No, you didn't want to be, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you gotta like ask yourself those hard questions, but and process what you're feeling. You know, like people have a hard time, it, like just being who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like if it hurt you, it hurt you. If you mad, then you mad. If you frustrated, then you frustrated. If you want to say something crazy, just say it. You know what I'm saying? It's okay because that's how you get out what you feel. You visualize it, you see it, then you decide like I'm this is what I feel about this situation, or this is what I feel about this person, or whatever, and it's completely okay because it's a normal thing.
Yes.
Honesty is a big thing, like being honest with yourself about what you feel, what happened, because sometimes we see things at our own perceptions and
True.
we negate because we got hurt, we negate what really happened. And so you have to really process like what happened. Did that person really hurt me, or am I just offended? Because
Good.
there's a difference between the two. And then accountability,
Mm-hmm.
what like not taking the blame off of them, because like I tell people, 9 times out of
Mm-hmm.
10 that person hurt you and they going to sleep. They not even worrying about it, especially if they have not apologized. You know what I'm saying? They're like over it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to be accountable for your action as far as what you can do differently so that doesn't happen again. And then the big one for me is like they may not never say I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
are you going to be able to get past that? Because I think that's where people get stuck at, because they want someone to accept
Yes.
the fact that they hurt
Yes.
them, and you hurt me and I need to heal from this, and I'm not going to heal until you apologize and acknowledge that you hurt me.
That's
But guess
true.
what? They might not never, and they might talk about you bad to everybody else, like
Yes.
it was your fault and you did it and this, that, and the other. And so you have to be willing to accept your own healing, because
Yes.
they may not be on that same, they might not be on that same lane as you.
Exactly. Especially for people that need to be healed from situations involving people who passed away. That's a big
Mm,
one as well, because sometimes it can be easier to heal or to vent when that person's alive, but maybe they didn't apologize, but you know where they are, you see them on Facebook. But it's so difficult to heal when that person is dead and you don't have the satisfaction. You couldn't write the letter and have them respond or the email. And so
right,
that's hard for people also is, you could heal, you could feel like you've healed, but you'll never get that confirmation or that response from people that have passed on. And so that's a whole journey by itself as well. And that's why I know that working with a coach, working with a trained licensed professional is essential, because we're trained to help people through different techniques and through different questioning. And we're able to support and hold space for people who are dealing with that level of difficulty and stress and need a healing when they can't get that from necessarily someone else. And that is it's a certain way to hold people. And I don't mean physically, when when they were hurt, abused, whatever the case might be, and they'll never get it. So I just wanted to throw
right,
that in there as well.
definitely. So I've heard some people say like when you are in your healing process, you have to create a different moment that happened, or you have to create a positive moment. So how do you create this positive moment when something negative just happened to you? How do
Tell me
you
more
do?
about what that
So
thought
they
is.
say, well, you have to think of the other side of what happened. It helped you grow, or it helped you, but how do you create that if you are so hurt? Like you are so hurt in the inside, you're so traumatized by whatever. Maybe you were abused. Mentally, physically, sexually, because that's a big one. And so I had a young lady tell me before, she was like, I hope you're not one of those people that tell me I got to think of my sexual abuse as a positive thing. Definitely not. So what would you say to someone?
Oh, see, that can be real damaging. I think that's where, hopefully, as we're thinking about who to work with, that, I mean, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get with certain people, but that's
Right,
extremely damaging, and invalidating to someone's, trauma. I would say to, how to help people think about the positive. For me, I don't lead with that,
right,
because I think it's a process. I do think that situations create resiliency. I do think that, when we look at certain situations, we can see that we overcame. But I think that for me is different
right,
than telling someone, look, you went through that. It was really good for you because, look, you're this type. I think, and a lot of it is the way you say things and the way you present it, but I don't ever want someone to feel like, you know, let's clap to the trauma because, you know,
right,
it had
right,
a purpose, as if the
right.
person, to me, it takes away that person's ability to for their trauma to
Process.
to not have been okay, and we know that that's not okay. So it sends a
Right,
message, um, that
right,
it's something that it was okay, or was just coming to them, or whatever, however you want to say it. So for me, it's just important to let people get things out, process how they felt about it, what was the consequences of that, like how did that affect their life,
right,
and to help them think through. And like I said, there's different techniques with that, there's different questioning, but for me, I just come from a place where it's really, really important to not shame people or make
right.
people, you have to really handle healing and trauma very delicately. Um,
Right, right. And
so,
I love your explanation because every time someone says that to me and I ask them like why do you have to mask what you feel? You know what I'm saying? Like why do you have to mask that with something positive because that's kind of like suppressing what you
mhm,
really feel. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be hurt. And it's okay to say you hurt, you mad, you angry, upset, that gave you trauma. It's okay to be angry about it. All of that is completely fine. It's completely normal to be that. Now, if you want to look at it the light way, fine, but then it discounts what you really feel. I think we got to, you want to read the question?
sure, Derek Davis. I know for me, healing was a long road because not only the hurt from others, but the pain I also caused. Yeah, so that's what we're talking
Mm,
about, the combination. I was afraid to feel peace because I didn't want others to think I wasn't hurting. Whoa, that's deep. So if
wow.
you step into your peace, then other people will mistake that as, oh, he good. Whoo, that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot.
That
So
like
then,
made my chest go, you know what I'm saying?
because then how do you have permission to heal if other people will snatch that and think, there, that's, you said a mouthful. Wow.
I
I don't
definitely
even
think you
know.
have to take it. You have to, like some people will look at people, and they will see you dressed up nice. And this is why I say healing from the inside out. Because sometimes we want to fix our outer and our inner is not fixed or our inner is not healed. And so they'll look at you on the outside and they will say, oh, she's good. Like she don't have no problems. She don't have no situations. But that's not the truth. You know what I'm saying? That's completely not the truth. People are battling things that we have no clue that they're battling in the inside. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes we don't want people to know we're hurting because of whatever. I'm supposed to be the strong one. I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be the one that can battle this and do that. But
Yeah.
we have to get to a space where it's okay to say, I'm hurt.
Right. And it's okay, like with what the second part he said, if you afraid to feel peace because other people will think, I think that is an opportunity to say, you know what, however I feel, to put that self love on yourself. However I feel is how I feel, regardless of how other people receive it. So if they think I'm not hurting, then it is what it is. But I deserve that peace, and so I think
Right.
that's a process too. I wanted to come back to what you were saying about how sometimes practitioners will push on this like positivity. Like, look how good that trauma was. You're this type of person. And I wanted to say something because I think this is to the practitioners or anybody that's in the helping profession, whatever that is, where you are in charge of leading people to a place of healing. It is essential that, and to do no harm with people, that we are going through some sort of process with ourselves for our own personal healing. And I say it because sometimes those people who are pushing like this positivity, don't think about it. They're doing that because it's uncomfortable for them to sit down and hear other people's trauma, and that's a
Right.
whole process. So they'll try to push people to not talk about their story, or if people want to get it out, they will say things like, "All right, let's change the subject," or "Was it really that bad? Look at the positive." And really, that is a technique that many practitioners use to deflate from giving people space to tell the nitty gritty, nasty, disgusting things that's happened to them. And so it's a reflection of these practitioners
Right.
who are uncomfortable listening to trauma because it stirs up things within them that maybe they
Mm-hmm.
have not healed. And so that's
Right.
essential, that we're not harming people by, one, not allowing them to tell their story, whatever they need to share, and two, diverting the conversation to whether it's this positive thought process or just somewhere
Right.
else, and stealing the moment from people. Because to heal, you have to be able to get the details out. You have to be able to tell who, what, when, where, and why, and not worry about practitioners who aren't strong enough to handle hearing that trauma. Now, I don't mean that to say
Mhm.
like to blame practitioners, but I'm saying there does take some type of work to hear the horrors that people have gone through. And so there's that's a whole practitioner workshop. So I'm not trying
Right.
to blame practitioners, but I'm saying this stuff gets heavy. And so we don't want to harm people by stealing that moment from people because it's uncomfortable for us to hear, to do that. And if that is
Right.
the case, then there's things that we can do as practitioners. So I wanted to throw that out there because we can halt people's healing because we aren't healed, but we only want to talk about this certain thing. And
Right.
I'm not saying that certain, that we don't have niches, but I'm saying, we have, if we're putting ourselves out there to help people heal, it's important to know that that's going to be a variety of different things that people need to talk about, and thinking about, are we in a position to help people heal at that time? So that's just my practitioner thing there.
Right. So I agree. I agree, and it happens a lot because there are so many different traumas that are happening in the world today. So people are going through a lot, but then they're trying to keep going with their work and keep going with being, a great practitioner. And sometimes you do get caught up in that space where it's like, you not that, and you may not purposely do it. You may just do it by just not consciously thinking like, okay, I really need to hear them out because they really need to get this out. So I agree with that. um what about when you're in the healing process, right, and you start to um everything looks familiar to you, so you don't give anything an opportunity because you're like, oh, that happened to me before, or that situation looks similar to the pain that I just healed from. What would you tell somebody in that situation with that
Um,
familiarness?
so from you talking about from like a practitioner working with someone and their issues bearing your issues? I'm not quite
No,
sure.
just you, just like in general, if someone came to you and they said, like I healed from this situation, but everything looks familiar, like in a relationship. I don't want to be in another relationship because all men are the same or all women are the same and everybody does the same thing. Part of the healing process is being able to see everybody or every situation as an individual at that point. What would you tell somebody to do if they're self-sabotaging in different situations like that?
My instinct says to step back, to
Mm.
because sometimes you can be so, if the person, like you said, was this thinking all men are the same, maybe they might need to step back and say, and take a break. They might need to take a break to kind of, going back to what we said, 46 minutes ago, is to assess the situation. Sometimes you're in it too deep still.
Right.
That's my instinct to that question, is sometimes taking a step back um, will help you assess, like, okay, what really happened. And I think this is a great time to see a coach, or talk to someone. It doesn't have to be a coach, but a mentor or somebody, so that
Right.
you can push, you can get that someone trusted, I got to say that, so that you can kind of have someone to bounce these, to see if you're on track, or if you're kind of over, I forget the word for what you was just saying, but you kind of label everybody as that, and that is a part of it sometimes. So I think taking a step back to say, okay, and for me sometimes it's talking to people about different situations, and whether that situation happened with everyone. So sometimes it's like, okay,
Right.
that you're saying that happened with all the men. So let's talk about all the men that's in your life. And oftentimes,
Right.
take things by piece, the person often realizes, oh, well, actually, that person, wasn't as bad as everyone else. And so they can start to see that they're, I think that's what it is, overgeneralization. That's the
Yep.
word that came to
We
me.
started to generalize the thing.
Yes,
Yeah. We
right. So,
start to make it, so
yeah,
you definitely want to know kind of like what happened, like what really happened. And so in order to break that down, you have to ask yourself those hard questions like, I was in this space, this happened. You have to rehash that stuff in order to heal from it. Because if not, everything will seem that bad, or every situation will seem like someone saying, like, all people do is hurt me. So it could be the simplest thing. Oh, that hurt you. So that's that hurt on top of hurt, because you never healed from that very first hurt. So everything is looking the same. So you want to be careful in that space,
right.
definitely. And definitely want to be careful in that space. What are some things that a person could do? What are
Mm-hmm.
some things that they can do to start their process to healing? Because I know, like, a lot of people say, I'm ready to heal, but they don't even know where to get started at.
Right. Or they've been on the path, but then they've fallen off. And by falling off, I mean, been inconsistent, or things happen, and they, kind of what I talked about, going back down the alphabet. So I would say it would be helpful to start with journaling. I always talk to people about whether they have some sort of journaling or some sort of way to get things out. So that could be a physical book, it could be your phone, it could be, some people
Right.
have blogs where that's their catharsis, or that's their way of purging or get things out. So that's a great way to put your thoughts out. And then some people say, well, I don't write well, or I don't know what to start with. I don't, but there's a variety of different things. There's all types of journaling. One time I was journaling, I was like, I don't even know where to start, but I knew I needed to write something. Like I knew something needed to come out, but there was no starting place. I was at a blank. I just had this urging to write something. And then
Right.
I just got a journal prompt of online, like it was just, type journal prompt. And one, I think it was like the first one. And I just started there. And so it might not have been probably maybe what I needed, who knows, but it got me to communicate with myself and to process.
Right.
So I would say journaling, coaching, counseling, I've already talked about that. It's essential to be with someone who understands how to listen well. Everyone is,
Right.
does not have good listening skills, and all of us on the live probably have experienced that, where someone just didn't listen. I've been in a place where people didn't listen well to me, and I've been in places where I didn't listen well. So,
Right.
someone that can listen, be patient. You need someone who's going to not rush you through the process, but
Right.
also understand the process of healing, and also know when you might be stalling and might need to help you move along a little quicker. So it's a balance for coaches and therapists too. Sometimes you need to and if you need that encouragement to get a little quicker.
Right.
I
Right.
say prayer, meditation, is very important. Whatever that means to you, whoever that being or higher power is to you, find, whatever that is for you,
Right.
tapping in. We talked about that during the spiritual the week. If you haven't caught that, definitely go back and check out our spirituality. That was one of the deep ones, one of
Right.
the heavy ones from a couple weeks ago. But we talked about the importance of spirituality. Also, I want to say that counseling and coaching, it helps to normalize your feelings. Sometimes you talk to people and they're like we talked about, oh, it wasn't that bad. I hate that. I really hate that. Oh, that what you
Right.
went through wasn't that bad. Look at what I went through. And then people divert the question to them.
Right.
But it helps to normalize that what you went through was horrible. You didn't deserve to go through that. And people need to hear that what they went through was not their fault and they did not deserve that. They need to hear that.
Right.
And so find someone that will hold you in a will hold you, or I forget the other words for it, but will create space for you to do that crying, that screaming, whatever the
Right.
case might be.
Right.
They may join Damasha's events where you can do that at the waterside. That's even better because you have the
Oh,
natural
spring
element.
meditation. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
And then there's different
Definitely.
therapeutic events. There's uh, emotional tapping. I mean, that's a whole workshop on there, but there's different techniques that licensed professionals and coaches and healthcare professionals can do to help get that work that trauma through the body.
Right.
Um, so that's some of them. Sound healing, that's my personal passion. So that whether that's going to a workshop, whether that's looking up on YouTube and
Right.
finding sounds for that, or whether it's just listening to R&B or whatever gets you to a place where you can relax and kind of you know uh,
Release what you
release.
feel.
Thank you. So
Hmm.
that's some of the ones I would say. Do you have any that you want to
Yeah,
add?
I know like a big one for me is like visualizing what that healing looks like. You know what
Oh
I'm saying?
yeah.
Kind of like seeing it like, okay, when I'm healed from this situation, this is how I want to be. This is what I want to look like. And remembering to value yourself. You know what I'm saying? When you're
Hmm.
healing, going through the process, know that it's okay. It's a process. Know that
Yes.
nobody can go through this process except for you. They may say like, "Oh, that's not that bad," or "Girl, I went through that before," or "Oh, you a man, man up." They may say all of those things, but they're not the person who went through that situation. You know that like they're not feeling that pain. So it's
Yes.
definitely okay for you to take that time and do this for you. Ask
Yes.
yourself like those heavy questions, like, am I accepting this pain? Like I accept that this happened, but what can I do to get past this, because I want to get past this. Main thing for
Yes.
me is just know like they may never say I'm sorry. And are you okay with that? And can you move past that? Because I know like that's a big issue for people. They want someone to be accountable for the pain. Or if it's a situation where somebody is constantly saying, "That's not what happened. I didn't do that." And then that makes you question yourself. Don't question yourself. You know what you went through and you have to be okay with them, because the healing process is about you. It's not about
Yes.
them. It's about you healing.
Yes.
And so you just have to
Yes.
just grasp a hold of that. And I think the oh wait, we have a question. Ask yourself the hard questions and answer them. Definitely.
Totally.
Definitely. And I know like one other thing is when I ask myself hard questions, I write them down. So I have to purposely go back and read them. And people who
Hmm.
know I journal, they always like when I'm going through my little tangents, because I go through my little tangents, they like,
Hmm.
go
As
back and
people.
read your journal. Go back and read your journal because I know you wrote that
Mhm.
down because you like to write. So go back and read what your response was to those hard questions, because those things are going to come back up again. That
Yes.
process of hurt, pain, frustration, when you're up all night thinking about that same situation, doing that replay over in your head 100 times to try to change it.
Hmm.
We can't change the past. Only thing we can do is try to heal from the past and then move
Yes.
forward. Um,
Yes.
I think the last one for me is like set those goals. Like set those
Hmm.
goals. I know I'm hurt. I know this is frustrating. I know this is consuming, but I want to be able to get past this. I'm going to get past this. I'm past this. Like speak those things. Say it like
That's
I'm
good.
here.
That's good.
Manifest them. Um, I think those are about it for me, like kind of just the things that I do to get past hurt, pain, trauma, whatever is going on in my life.
Yes. I just want to add um, to try not to fix talking to the people is sometimes we want to fix everything at once. And so that's what I want to share too, is try not to fix everything at once. As you go through the process of healing and revealing things, um, and memories come back and things like that, sometimes things are more difficult than we realize. Sometimes things are,
Right.
especially if you have to forgive yourself and you've done things that are not healthy or good to other people and to yourself, it can feel overwhelming. Hence why a lot of people drop out of counseling and coaching and things like that, because it can be difficult. So as you're
Right.
thinking about all the things you want to change, which typically that list is longer than why we love ourselves often, think about, okay, what is something that I can do right now, and then things will happen later. So that's something that
Right.
overwhelms people as well. As I got all this stuff I need to change, I got to do this, this, and this, and it's a great way to overwhelm yourself soon. And then try to stick with whatever the plan is. Try not to, leave the process and give up and things like that. um, I want to say again, don't try not to go do it alone. So some parts of it is, I think through the whole healing, we're working on
Right.
ourselves, but it's often a breath of fresh air to walk that, walk. Don't walk it alone. To walk it with
Right.
someone, and then that self compassion. Even if you've done things that weren't helpful or harmful to yourself, to someone else, there's still always space for self compassion to look and
Right.
say, yes, this is what I did. Okay, I'm working towards being a better person and making better decisions. But oftentimes, self compassion is harder sometimes than forgiving other people. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, that's
Right.
all I wanted to share.
Right. You have any closing remarks? Y'all know I'm not gonna hold y'all all night. You have any closing remarks, Dr. Sierra?
Nothing other than your worth, um, the healing, that we're all worth the process, that it's a difficult process, that it's not a linear process, but that it
Right.
is a worthwhile process. Even if you're, again, taking small pieces at a time. If you're working on your tone of voice and not getting as upset, um, easily, that's a lot to work on. And so give yourself permission to heal. Know that there's people that will walk with you through your healing, and
Right.
overall know that you're worth the healing.
Definitely. The only thing I have is just know that the healing process is a process. It is not overnight. It doesn't happen fast. It may take you years. It took me, I mean, years to heal from certain things in my
Hmm.
life. Like years. And some things I still battle sometimes in the late
Yeah.
night hours. You know,
Yes,
like
I'm
it's still
sure.
like
I'm
in my
sure.
mind, and I'm like, man, I really don't think I'm done with that situation.
Yeah.
So I have to go back to the A, like Dr. Sierra said. I have to go. I was at I, but now I'm back at A again,
And
processing
that's
those
okay.
feelings and processing what triggered me to get to that point. Um, Remember, this is about you. This isn't about anybody else. This is about you. It's so hard sometimes for us to focus on ourselves because we always want to put everything out. But if you're not healed in the inside, there's nothing that you're going to have to put out. There, I mean, and like I said, it's a process. So there may be one situation that you heal from, and you may help me, you know what I'm saying? But
Yes.
then there may be another situation that you're not healed from, and you say to me, like, I just can't help you with that because I'm dealing with that same thing right
Hmm.
now. But guess what? That's okay.
It's okay.
That is completely fine. Um, find your place of peace. Like find
Oh,
that
that's
place where
good.
you can be at peace and know, like, I have to deal with this
I
in
love
order
that.
for me to get to this next space, whatever that space is. I have to deal with this.
I love
Know
that.
that when you're honest with yourself, you don't have to tell anybody. Don't feel ashamed because I'm
Absolutely.
not exposing my all to the world. I'm not exposing everything to everyone. It's okay
Hmm.
to like be in the mirror and say, you know what, Demasha, you really got a bad attitude and you really need to, you know what? It's okay to say
Hmm.
like you really treated that person wrong to yourself. Maybe you
Hmm.
go back and apologize to that person when you at that space where you're like, I can apologize now. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't. But
Hmm.
process, get that healing. Know that this is about you
Yes.
being strong, you getting stronger, you accepting, you loving, you getting in that space of compassion, like Dr. Sierra said. It is okay. And just know that if it comes back again, go back to 8 and try it again.
That's
It's
right. For
okay.
sure.
It's
Hmm.
life. I don't want, I think sometimes people look at life as like it has to be, and it doesn't. Because if you go through it slowly, then you will catch the things that you need to change. But if you
Hmm.
speed through it, you miss
That's
something,
good.
you're just going to miss it. And then when you go back, you're going to feel like it's too late to go back. But it's never too
Mm-hmm.
late to go back. Just go back, fix it, and start back. Go back to I where you were. Just skip on back, or what is it, Monopoly, where you could skip
Yeah.
all around the
Go
board,
back.
skip on
Uh-huh.
around. It's okay.
Yes.
It is
Mm-hmm.
okay. So that's all I have for tonight. That's all I have for tonight. Y'all know I'm
Awesome.
not going to. Which thank you for discussing, ladies.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
Thank you for listening in. Thank you for everybody that's listening in and everybody that listened to the
Yes.
recording, because I know a lot of people have been
Yes.
listening to the recordings. We appreciate y'all time and y'all
We
energy
do.
that y'all give to us. And we will see y'all next Wednesday, same time, same
Same
place.
time.
And we love y'all. Good night.
Night.